You're listening to WRUULP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
Check, check, 1, 2. Looking like a little country. Some rock and roll and blues. 'Cause we sure love playing for good people like you. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, check, 1, 2.
Welcome to Music Local and Sustainable, the radio show that features discussions with and the music of local musicians. I am your host, Dave Lake. Tonight, we have Jenny Woodruff, local singer-performer and Director of Education of the Savannah Music Festival. Welcome, Jenny Woodruff.
Thank you, Dave Lake.
I'm sure most people think of the Savannah Music Festival as a 17-day event which occurs in the month of March and early April every year, which it is. But it is so much more.
It certainly is.
Particularly from the education component. There's really a trio of programs which have education at their root. Mm-hmm. And what are those?
Mm-hmm. Well, we have two national-based programs and one local program. The local one is called Musical Explorers. It's for K through 2 students, and we've developed that in partnership with Carnegie Hall's Weill Music Institute. I believe you've had Natasha Drina on the show before. She's our host of these shows, and that's a year-long curriculum where students learn about all different genres of music. This year, kids are learning about Zydeco, brass band, and old time. That was in the fall. And then this semester, they're learning about salsa, music of India, and German art song. So they have these lessons throughout the course of the year with their teachers, and then they see the concerts at the end of each semester. And we have almost 11,000 kids that participate in that. And then our national programs, which happen during the festival, our Swing Central Jazz, which is a workshop and competition for high school jazz bands from all over the country, and then Acoustic Music Seminar, which I know is very near and dear to your heart and to mine. And that is, we have 16 young acoustic string musicians from all over the country and internationally that come to Savannah and spend a week workshopping their own compositions and their own arrangements of bluegrass standards, jazz standards, and then perform them in a concert at the festival, the String Band Spectacular. Beloved by many in this community, and anybody that's seen it, really, it's hard not to love.
Well, let's take them one at a time. First, the local one. We've talked about quite a bit with several people, actually, who've been involved. And particularly, we spent some time when I was talking with Natasha Drina, because she is Melody. She is the host of the Musical Explorers program.
She's really the star of the show.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, I did not know Natasha because I'd missed a few of the cabarets she had done. Mm-hmm. And so I really didn't know her until I saw her as Melody the first time and just absolutely fell in love with her.
Yeah.
Because the character Melody in the manuals, which the instructors get, which I'm sure the students all see, is so similar to her appearance when she walks on.
Yeah.
You know who she is, and everybody in the audience, even maybe it's their first time, knows who she is.
Yeah, that's so true. And we're going to have a host of the show, and then it just turns out that she is tall and thin and has kind of brownish hair like Melody does in the curriculum. And so I thought we could just put a red tie on her and some navy pants and then put a Savannah Music Festival patch on her arm, and voila, it becomes this character that's kind of the through line throughout all the shows. And I love that. Musical Explorers has its own theme song, which Carnegie Hall uses, and I think every program nationally uses that song too.
Every song tells a story, every tune tells a tale, every rhythm has a reason. Don't you want to know? Don't you want to know what makes the music go? Come along and see, make your discovery. I can sing
then why shouldn't our musical explorers have a theme character? I love that she's a character. And she really is, like, each concert, kids just get more and more excited to see Melody. All the other artists too, but her especially.
And with each concert, which is really interesting because Savannah Music Festival brings in professional musicians to be each of these musical styles.
Right.
It's a 3-year arc. The sense is to start as a kindergartner.
Right.
And then they go to first grade and second grade. Each semester, they have 3 forms of music. Over 6 semesters, if you count it up,
right,
which becomes 18 forms of music.
Yeah.
And I remember we were joking, about a semester ago, I think, saying you're going to have to start inventing forms of music.
Carnegie Hall, they have New York City as their backdrop. And so they can say, we're going to go to Little India or the Greek neighborhood in Morningside Heights or wherever. So it's New York City. Our challenge is to find forms of music that resonate with the population here in the Low Country. And so we decided to hone in on genres of music that are kind of native, I guess, to the Southeast. So our very first semester in 2014-15, we started with Ring Shout and the McIntosh County Shouters, who are just an hour south of here in Darien, Georgia. And we're going to come back to them next semester. That's such a cool thing about Savannah and this area of the country is all American music is really rooted in the South and the Southeast in particular. And Ring Shout that's about as old as it gets for American music. So it's pretty cool. And then to see it is just really something that it's hard to replicate on a recording. Seeing it in concert and seeing the movement that goes with it and the stick man, and having the kids all know about that and where it comes from is really special.
I'm sure it is an irreplaceable experience for these children.
Yeah, I think you're right. I hope that that's the case. Although I wish that they had more experiences like that. There's an activity in the curriculum that says write a letter to your favorite artist. And we get letters from the kids. Rebecca Flaherty was our opera singer. Letters that say, Rebecca, how did you learn how to sing so pretty? I want to sing opera when I grow up. And these are kids that, it's not like they're listening to opera on the radio or, probably some kids are tuned to PBS and things like that, but definitely not the majority of kids anywhere. So that's really special. And then to have them learning about the Ring Shout, and this is something that's so cool to me, is that they're learning about the Ring Shout, which is a genre of music that began with the African slaves, songs that they brought over on the slave ships. And this is a history that's told by the McIntosh County Shouters. And then you have kids from Brock Elementary learning these songs. Brock Elementary is situated on the site of, I believe, the largest slave trade in the South, in the United States. And so,
the weeping time?
Yeah, so you know that there's a pretty direct linkage between the music and the kids that are learning about it now. And so, I mean, that kind of history is so important for us all to know about, but pretty cool that we're making these musical linkages, I think.
The instructional manual that goes out to the teachers in the schools, that has often verbatim the lyrics to the songs,
right.
Often some of the patterns of music of the songs, and it has historical context of the songs as well,
right?
So that they can put it in a little bit bigger context,
right? And then the teachers go to a training where they hear from each of the artists. They hear what the artist's history with the music is. They go a little bit deeper for their own personal knowledge, and then to share that with the kids. I mean, we're obviously really proud of the program. I'm really proud of it. And I think the artists that come out of it, I hope this has been demonstrated in the conversations you've had with them. It's really hard for an artist to come out of a week of shows where they're having 2 shows a day with 1,000 kids at each show, 1,000 kids who all know the songs, who know the vocabulary about music, who are really excited to see the kora from Mali or Falu Shah, who's a really fantastic Indian classical singer. She does a lot of fusion, but, she has a tabla player with her. So, I mean, you can't be an artist and come out of that week and not be just like, wow, this is something really, really special. And I've had a lot of artists just in informal conversations talk about wanting to do more with music education and wanting to do more things like that with kids. People who had never really thought of it, like Eric Culberson, say, amazing blues guitarist. He was our blues singer a couple years ago. He had an awesome time with the kids. I mean, he was hilarious. I don't know if you saw those shows, but he was so funny and just had a great time. And by the end of the week was just yucking it up at the concerts. And when does a blues guitarist have the chance to do like educational outreach, like, and they're not like bringing kids down to Boomies or wherever to see the show. So it's special for the kids. It's special for the artists too.
Oh, it was with Eric. I was joking with him. How on earth did you find blues songs that can be sung to kindergartner, first and second graders?
Yeah, it was, not just blues, but bluegrass too. I mean, it's so funny. Like every genre has its own kind of, oh, wow, I didn't realize that there was so much explicit content. and bluegrass, it's mostly just people dying or being killed. And blues, it's obviously there's a lot of infidelity, adult content, shall we say. So for one of his songs, Little Red Rooster, I mean, that's just all a giant metaphor. So, that was okay to use that for the kids. He's really talking about a little red rooster. And then the other one, we're very selective with the verses that we used. But it was a challenge. It was a challenge. Rob Gibson, our executive and artistic director, we sat in his office and we went through all these blues songs. I went, nope, we can't use that one. Can't use that one. Can't use that one. Oh, maybe if we'll change a word here, we could do that one. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's fun.
Then there's Swing Central Jazz.
Yes.
And Swing Central Jazz is a combination 3-day workshop and competition where high school jazz bands from around the country submit performances, and the top 12 are selected, I think
right.
it is.
12. Mm-hmm.
And they come here for a competition, and a gold, silver, and bronze medalists are selected from that grouping. Mm-hmm. As an educator, people who listen to this show know that I'm a former educator. Probably still am. I educate hosts here.
Yeah, maybe more in an informal capacity, but definitely still an educator.
These functions of the Savannah Music Festival is one reason I'm a donor. Mm-hmm. We talked earlier on about the fact that we sat at a couple of occasions with the same couple of teachers from the Atlanta area. Mm-hmm. And the first time we sat with them, we went into Musical Explorers because they were both elementary school teachers. Mm-hmm. And they came back the next time and sat down with us and said, we've decided we're going to give.
That's awesome.
Because of what they do. For Musical Explorers, they pay the whole dime. Everything is paid for.
That's
by
right.
Savannah
Yeah,
Music
we
Festival.
pay everything except for the schools have to get the kids there themselves, but everything else is completely free. I mean, Carnegie Hall doesn't do that. They have $3 per kid or something like that. That's really important for us to just remove any barriers to these experiences. And I venture to say that that's important to the school system, that it be cost-free. I don't know where these kids would be getting this kind of education if it weren't for us. And education is such a fundamental part of our vision as a festival and our mission. And to go back to Swing Central, that's a program that is so cool for the students that get to come. I mean, they get to sit and work on a few tunes each year with Marcus Roberts, with a team of more than 20 jazz educators and professional jazz musicians who are here at the festival and who are literally sitting right next to the students and playing the material. It's so intense. It's so high quality, and it's not just, oh, we're going to bus the kids in and they're going to see a concert and that's great and they're getting exposed to music. No, they are getting like the in-depth, nitty-gritty, here's a specific thing that you can do as a person and as a musician to improve your craft. It's like all our productions. We're very focused on high-quality service, high-quality productions. We don't do anything halfway. We really go full tilt.
You're listening to Music Local and Sustainable, and I'm your host, Dave Lake. Tonight, we have Jenny Woodruff, local singer-performer and Director of Education of the Savannah Music Festival. And as you said, the Musical Explorers is a service to the young children of the Savannah area, Low Country, neighboring counties, where Swing Central is really... Well, again, a combination of a competition, and there's sizable prizes that they receive.
Yes,
as a result of the
Faircloth Award.
Exactly,
the first prize is $5,000,
and so that's quite a bit going to these schools. Plus, they have on the resume that they performed and did very well.
Right.
And at least one school from California does very well on a regular basis.
Right.
But because they're great.
Because they're great.
But as you indicated, then the students in each of the bands get basically almost one-on-one mentoring from the professional jazz musicians who are in the area, many of whom are actually part of major college jazz programs.
Yes.
And so you have to put one and one together,
right, and
say that you're preparing these students to be jazz majors or music majors at the college level.
That's right.
And you're actually maybe making some of the first introductions.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, so we have clinicians from Florida State and University of North Carolina, Michigan State is a big presence, York University in Canada. Yeah, most of our clinicians are on faculty at major jazz programs. What's great about that program, too, is I think the individual players have this intense musical experience. But then the band programs themselves, I think, really benefit from coming here, where we provide original compositions and original arrangements to bands free of charge. Even if you just fill out a form and say you're interested in Swing Central, then we send it out. And that's a real expense. And oftentimes high school programs in particular are really just pinching pennies. If they have to spend $70 for a new chart or whatever, they're not going to do it because they need that $70 to go to a bus or whatever. So we provide that free of charge. And then the bands that come back year after year, they see their students becoming more inspired and doing more practicing. And so that takes them to a higher level. And then I hear all the time from band directors that the benefits accrue over time. It's hard to quantify that, say, on a grant application, but I really believe that that's happening because I hear it from band directors all the time, every year.
You're listening to Music Local and Sustainable, and I'm your host, Dave Lake. Tonight, we have Jenny Woodruff. And again, I don't mean to confuse the listener, but the Savannah Music Festival is now also doing surveys and collecting data related to musical explorers. And finding out that these students do better in school.
Yes.
Do better in topics such as math.
Yes.
As well as English. And so the basic skills courses, because many people, I'm not going to name names or point fingers, state legislators, feel that music is a frill.
Oh, I could not disagree more, but I vehemently oppose that idea in every form. Everybody in the public school system, every teacher, every parent almost, they talk about testing and how much testing the students have to do. And there's not much that we can do about that. As an organization, obviously, we're not going to change that at all. But I think the more opportunities students have to be creative, the more opportunities they have to learn about other people and other communities in an empathetic way, that's going to improve not just their test scores in math and English and blah, 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 which the data have borne out, but it makes them more empathetic human beings. And really, there's not an easy way to measure this, but organizations like the Kennedy Center, they have like started these studies that measure like soft skills or things like grit, which is a big buzzword in arts education. And when you improve these social skills, you create people that are able to function better in society. And they're also able, if we're going to stay just in the range of the classroom, they can do things like pay attention longer. They can do things like resolve conflicts with their peers or with their teachers. They can learn how to reflect critically on their own impulses and behaviors and things like that and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't throw this ball at this person. I mean, those kind of little they're called soft skills, but they really make a difference in how a student performs. If they enjoy going to school, they're going to do better in the subject. I mean, that's just a no-brainer. And if they have opportunities to be creative and to develop interpersonal relationships with their teachers, with their peers, then they're gonna feel better about going to school. To me, it makes perfect sense. To others, maybe not so much, but to me,
that's opinion. What legislators have is opinion. But
right.
I am a scientist. Show me the evidence. And that's one thing the Savannah Music Festival has done. It actually has collected data to show the improvement in English, the improvement in math, and the increased attention span, and from self-reports of the teachers, of increased attentiveness to classroom activities and improved behavior of these children who have been part of this program.
Yes, the conduct grades have gone up and statistically significant.
And those are all statistically significant changes.
Exactly.
So legislators can have their opinions. We have the data.
We have the data.
Show me the evidence.
Yeah, we have it. It's there, and we collect that. And then we have evidence, too, of improved teacher best practices, I guess they're called, of teachers, like things like teaching group work or writing assignments are quote unquote better than multiple choice or things like that. And so we did see with teachers that were using Musical Explorers in the classroom, more of these best practices implemented at the end of the year than at the beginning. That's not as sexy as improved math scores, but for a school administrator who is looking to have engaged teachers and engaged students and blah, 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 they know the link between those practices and student performance. It's a very compelling argument for Musical Explorers also.
And then the third leg of the three-legged stool.
The three-legged SMF education stool.
I mix my metaphors here. Is acoustic music seminar.
Yes.
An acoustic music seminar is different from the other two because it's basically bringing young professionals who already are musicians.
Right. And I would say pre-professional. They're almost there.
Okay.
Some of them are professionals.
Young, well, anybody who is earning money doing something to me is a professional. But anyways, bringing young musicians who are at various stages based upon their life experiences.
Right.
Some are recent college grads. The ages I've seen it are from like 12 to 22.
Yeah,
22 is the top.
22 is the top.
And most of them are in the 18 to 22
Yeah,
range.
I think the youngest we've had since I've been, I think maybe the first year, which was the year before I came to the festival, there was somebody that was 11. That was like kind of a pilot year. And since then, I think the youngest we've had is 14 or 15. Some of them are professional. They are earning money for what they do. Some of them are just in high school or they're in college programs. All of them are kind of on the verge of just taking off with a career. And so this program, Acoustic Music Seminar, is really about giving them a very rich musical experience where they can, for some of them, play with other people their own age who are at the same skill level as them. And for others, it's just kind of opening their minds to new possibilities for arrangement, composition, improvisation, those kinds of things, so that when they leave acoustic music seminar and Savannah Music Festival, they are just open to all these musical possibilities and connections and networks of musicians. And so over the 5 festivals that I've been here, we've seen all these careers just start to, I mean, you know they're going somewhere. They're starting to take off. They're being recognized by International Bluegrass Music Association. You're starting to see little tours happen. Bands come together that met at AMS, and it's really exciting to follow them and see what they do, and just see them grow. And they're really awesome. That concert at the end of the festival, the String Band Spectacular, is, I mean, definitely my favorite event of the festival. It's so fun.
And so there's 16 of them come each year, varying in age, varying in experience. They're all asked to bring a musical idea with them. Mm-hmm. It could be an idea.
Right.
One particular musician, both years he's come, has brought jazz recordings that he has recorded on his phone.
Yeah.
And plays that for the group. And then they develop a sort of Americana sort of instrumentation version of that. Some bring full numbers, which they've done before as part of their bands.
Right.
Some bring ideas. Some bring songs perhaps that they have done their audition tape with.
Right.
And so these ideas are then brought. Everybody gets a chance to share their ideas with their fellows, and the mentors for the group, which are led by Mike Marshall and Jillian Lodge. Organize some of these groups which they feel are good combinations, which maybe address some of the music that the participants have brought. Because because a certain educational director keeps calling them students. And
I know. They're not students. They're participants. It's so funny. Yeah, I decided a few years ago not to call them students, and then I just can't help it anymore. Yeah, so some of them, like you say, some of them want acoustic covers, like jazz standards, a lot of fiddle tunes, of course, a lot of Grisman. Sam Bush made it onto the concert. And Vesson, every year we have a Vesson tune. They're such an awesome Swedish band, but I don't know, it's kind of like percolating in the minds of young acoustic musicians. But then sometimes people do just bring an idea, and one of my favorite AMS tunes is from 2013, BB Bonus. She's a banjo player. And she brought just this melody that was in 5, and it goes da 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 da, and that's all she brought. It was just written out, and then it turned into this fantastic composition called Bubbles, which is one of my all-time favorites. And I just remember being in that room with her and Xavier is the bass player, Molly Tuttle was the guitar player, and Julian Lodge was the clinician in there. And it's, they went through all these ideas. We do a round, we wanted to do this. And I think Xavier came up with this great counterpoint on bass. And it's just it's still one of my favorites.
Well, let's listen to a little bit of that. Bubbles by Catherine Bowness.
Bowness, yeah, she goes by BB, but her friends call her BB.
BB. Okay, so Catherine Bowness, her friends call her BB. You're listening to WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
If you enjoy our programming on WRUU-LP, please support the station with a donation. As an individual, you can give any amount, become a basic station member, or become a serious fan of the station. To check out membership rates and to donate to the station, go to www.wruu.org/individual and select to donate monthly or subscribe to an annual membership. Again, to donate to the station, go to www.wruu.org/individual and select to donate monthly or subscribe to an annual membership. Thank you for listening to and supporting WRUU-LP.
Healthy Savannah is a social movement founded in 2007 to make Savannah a healthier place to live. The organization works to increase opportunities for citizens to engage in physical activity and consume a nutritious, balanced diet. Healthy Savannah is fueled by the ambitions and motivations of volunteers. Events around the community are always in need of a helping hand, whether it is a one-time basis or continuously. More information available at healthysavannah.org. You're listening to Music Local and Sustainable, and I'm your host, Dave Lake. Tonight we have Jenny Woodruff, local singer, performer, and Director of Education of the Savannah Music Festival. A couple of the things that are really amazing, that I find amazing, you probably say, yeah, of course, that's what's expected. But they get to meet and be tutored by and have their music heard by some of the best acoustic musicians in the world who are performers at the Savannah Music Festival during that week that they're here. So they're here for a full week. They work on these songs during the week that they've brought, that they've been assigned to these groups, and then a number of them, I think a dozen songs are selected for the String Band Spectacular, which is on the Friday of that week, the day before the last day of the festival, the penultimate day of the festival.
Yes.
One of the musicians this year was very proud that he said penultimate.
Do you remember who that was?
Dom Flemons.
Oh, Dom Flemons, yeah.
I'm almost sure it was Dom Flemons. So they come here on this. They fly in on Saturday, so Sunday will be their first day,
full day, yeah.
And then they do their everything is pretty much wrapped up by Thursday. They do the final on-stage rehearsals on Friday morning, and then Friday evening they do this performance.
That's right. Wow, Dave, you've really got the schedule down.
Which, well, it's
the same every year.
as you indicated, it's the same every year, but also it's one of my favorite experiences because as a donor, there are donor levels. So as a concert circle donor, we get invited to rehearsals.
Right.
And we get invited to a master class and to have lunch with the acoustic music seminar. And so
one of the many benefits of Concert Circle sponsorship at the Savannah Music Festival. SavannahMusicFestival.org/donate. I don't actually know if that's the right address, but FYI.
So for those who wish to have this experience, they can donate to the Savannah Music Festival at the concert level because it is the highlight of the festival. And I'm sure Rob Gibson, the executive director of the festival, will get very mad at me for saying that because he brings in unbelievably talented people in classical music, in jazz, in acoustic music, in world music. But bottom line is, for me, is acoustic music seminar series.
Well, if I might venture a guess as to why that's your favorite and a lot of other people's favorite. I mean, a lot of people say, they go to the String Band Spectacular and then they say, this is like the best thing I've been to at the festival. I think it's because you see just unbridled joy from the participants and their mentors too. And it's just because they're playing with other people that are also experiencing the best time of their lives. They're challenged creatively. They're probably just slap happy because they're so tired because they stay up till 3 every morning jamming and practicing, and then they have to get up for 8:30 rehearsal every day. It's just awesome. Every year, it just brings me to tears just to see the composition happen, and then they've been in a bubble all week long playing for each other, and that's great, and they're playing for Mike and Julian and Brian and Aoife. But then to see an audience, they're in the Lucas Theater, there's a big crowd there, and then they play the first song, and then when you hear the applause after the first song, because the audience is always taken aback by how good it is, so they're screaming and hollering, and then it's like off to the races for the rest of the concert. It's awesome. Maybe that's why you like it so much.
That's a large part of why I like it, but also the fact to interact with these young performers.
Yeah.
And to see their enthusiasm and their love of music.
Yeah.
And then to follow them.
Right.
As they progress on.
Right.
Because I have often, not everyone, but if I can hook up to them on Facebook or something, so I can follow their careers and follow what they're doing. And they really appreciate that.
They do.
When other people are commenting upon their performance here on Facebook, for instance, which they can share, or are following them of what they're doing out there with their various bands, and several bands have formed because of the interaction that has occurred here, and at least one band that formed as a result of their experiences here at the Acoustic Music Seminar Series was brought back as a band to the regular Savannah Music Festival. Because I'm thinking Haas, Cohort, and Tice.
Ah, yeah. Well, I don't think they formed as a result of AMS. They were all at the first AMS, but they knew each other before they came. But yeah, we'll take credit for them. They're awesome.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Yeah, but Mile 12 is a band that, I mean, they, to some extent, they knew each other in Boston, but their mandolin player, they met at AMS, and they're great. I've seen them several times at festivals and stuff around the country, and they're really taking off.
I felt the same way. I tell you true, I swear, but I won't lie to you, just to lie with you. Can't turn my back now, I know what I should do. Down, down, heartbroken, I get so lonesome over you. Lost, lost since you found me, alone in a world cut out for two.
This new band, Circus Number 9. They met at AMS, and the band leader, Thomas Castle, he said, I mean, this is almost verbatim, that everything he did with that band, it was a direct result of AMS. Before he came to AMS last year in 2016, he had only ever played with old guys that kind of knew fiddle tunes, kind of didn't, and he just taught himself mandolin a lot on his own. And then he came to AMS and he was playing with people that were just as good and better than him. I have to say, his first year here, I mean, he was a standout because everybody that comes is a standout, but he wasn't, he was kind of hanging in the back, and he, was just kind of hanging on, and I mean, he did great. But then he left AMS and he won the Rocky Grass Mandolin competition. He formed his own band. He had an EP, he had a solo EP, he had a band EP. He's going on tours, has thousands of Instagram followers. Just like the whole 9 yards. Open for Brian Sutton, open for Grisman. That's because of AMS. And I can say that because that's what he said. I love them on a personal level because we have enough people that we develop personal relationships with them and can follow them and be mentors to them, AMS and beyond. And they're just all such good people. They're just really great, funny, fun, good people.
And the chance to be in a small room
Right.
with David Grisman.
Right.
I mean, talk about
Right.
an opportunity that you just don't get in this life.
Right. Yeah. To say, yeah, oh, that was a killer solo, like just totally offhand.
Exactly.
And then like their minds are blown. Like, that's it. That's okay. Great. I can die now
Yeah.
because Grisman liked my solo.
Well, and for nothing else, to be day in and day out with people like Mike Marshall,
Yeah.
with Julian Lodge,
Right.
with Brian Sutton, last year and this year,
Right.
and Aoife O'Donovan this year, to be in a regular relationship with these people.
And have them treating you not quite like peers, but as like Julian Lodge, his whole thing with AMS is, we expect you to be great, so be great. He doesn't cut them any slack, and he is maybe says the most cutting things to them, but he's so kind and he's so gentle. And Julian is just a presence. He's one of my favorite people, period. But he can say, "Stop wasting my time," and the musicians say, "Oh, thank you." He said that to me. Thank you. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. And just be really cutting and biting, and then have it still be this wonderful spiritually enlightening experience.
Or like Aoife saying to the group, don't give me that stuff that you can't memorize a few lines from a song.
Right, exactly.
What have you been memorizing in terms of the entire rest of the music?
Yeah.
Think of it like music. Think of the rhythm of the words.
Right.
Think of the timbre of the words. And then come back to me and say that you can't memorize this stuff.
Right, exactly.
It was a critical statement. And it was quite directed, actually, at a particular performer who apparently said that. But to me, it wasn't even said to me. To me, it was a revelation.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I could, because I'm terrible at memorizing things like that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's how I should think of it. I should think of the timbre of the words. I should think of the rhythm of the words and how they fit into the larger structure. It's just phenomenal what they share.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. And then they're in this network of musicians that includes their mentors, that includes participants from previous years. It's very cool. It's very, very cool.
And they have to pay for their trip here.
That's right.
But food, lodging,
Yeah.
and tutoring,
Yep.
individual
It's all
tutoring
covered.
is all covered for a week
For a week.
by
yeah.
the Savannah Music Festival.
And all the concerts they get to go to also.
And all the concerts they get to go to.
Right.
Which alone, I mean, in personal conversation I've had with them, say, I never see this.
Right.
And they go to schools like Berkeley,
Right.
as in Berkeley School of Music in Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And they simply say, you don't see that concentration of professional musicians in
Right.
front of you performing.
Right.
And that's not including that those people you see on that stage that night, you talk to that day or the next day.
Right. Right. Yeah.
I mean, and talking to Mike Marshall, and he's made this statement publicly too, so I'm not sharing confidences or anything. He shakes his head and says, man, I would have loved to have anything remotely like this.
Right.
And
It's
what
so
these kids
true.
get.
It's so true. It's so true. They it's so much information. It's so much information just hurled at them over the course of the week that a lot of times they don't even process it until weeks after they've left. And that's fine. It's an artist development program. We're really thinking of these participants, of these young musicians, as future festival performers, as people that are going to share the gospel of AMS with musicians younger than them. And by Gospel of AMS, I don't just mean like promoting our program at the festival, which they certainly will, but like the overall message of this is how to be a caring collaborator. This is how to inspire the best possible art from other people. And so they will go on because Brian Sutton was so generous with them, with his time and with his thoughts. And because Julian Lodge was so like, yeah, let's go get coffee, let's jam. They'll do that for younger musicians. I'll see them at IBMA, which is the International Bluegrass Music Association. They have a big conference every year. I'll see them doing that at IBMA with young kids who are coming up to them and saying, could you talk to me about this? Oh, yeah, of course. Let's jam out. Where are you staying? Come to this room. We'll meet here. So it's kind of like furthering the circle of life, these musical mentoring relationships on down the line.
You're listening to Music Local and Sustainable, and I'm your host, Dave Lake. Tonight we have Jenny Woodruff, local singer, performer, and director of education of the Savannah Music Festival. And like you said earlier, Thomas Castle was back here for the second year. After his first year, and Brian Sutton was one of the mentors that last year.
Right.
You said he opened for Brian Sutton.
He did.
I'm sure that's not a coincidence.
No, he emailed Brian. Actually, it's a great story, and Thomas should be like a model of hustle for any young musician. He knew Brian from AMS, and he emailed Brian multiple times until he got a response to say, hey, I think we would be a really good opener. And he only had to email him 3 times before Brian was like, yeah, of course. Here, I'll listen to your stuff and blah, 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 blah. But then that translated to Thomas sending emails to Grisman, who he had met very briefly at the festival. But, that gave him an entry point into that. And I don't know how many times he had to email Grisman, but he got through, and his band opened for them, I think in Asheville, not at a small venue either. So it's, man, if you get to come to AMS, it's just like you are #blessed. That's just, yeah, it's great for them. It's great for us as a festival. It's pretty awesome.
And the word of mouth.
Is
tremendous. Almost everyone that I talked to heard about AMS by word of mouth.
Right, absolutely.
From other performers.
Right. Because there's nothing else like it in the country. There really isn't.
Yeah.
We've gone looking for other things like it to kind of help us do better as a program, but there isn't anything, so we're inventing it as we go.
And not to say that AMS was the trigger, but when you have, it's going to sound like I'm perseverating on Paul Court.
He's awesome.
But he was a 2012 AMS participant. And he's gone on to perform with the Punch Brothers, with Dave Rawlings' Machine. Of course, as I mentioned, Haas, Court, and Tice. And he was a 2015 IBMA Momentum Award nominee.
Right. And you know what? The Momentum Award winner last year was Molly Tuttle, who was at AMS in 2012 and 2013. And man, she is awesome. She is such a great singer. Her guitar playing is unreal. Great songwriter. So that was really exciting. And every year when those Momentum nominees come out, there's AMS alums in almost every category, which is pretty cool.
I don't want to perseverate on this too long, but BB, who was an AMS 2013, received the 2015 Fresh Grass Best Banjo Award winner. And Fresh Grass is that big bluegrass up in Western Mass.
Right, Mass Mocha.
North Adams. And not only that, but also her present bandmate, who is an AMS 2014 grad, Bromlin Keith Hines, was the 2015 Fresh Grass Best Fiddler winner.
Yeah, and I think that one of our fiddle players this year, Julian Pinelli, he won Fresh Grass in 2016. And Carolyn Kendrick and Jake Howard, who both went to AMS 2 years in a row, although separate years, They have a duo called the Page Turners, and they were Fresh Grass Best Duo. So, a lot of that is because those guys are all in Boston, and North Adams is in the same state. And so they're hooked in that way. But a lot of these projects that they have going, like the Page Turners or like Mile 12 or whatever, are pretty either directly or indirectly linked to AMS.
And then there's some performers who you hear early on, because again, we get to go to things like the master classes and the rehearsals. You hear earlier on and maybe hear only parts, such as a dulcimer player this year.
Yeah.
Who then sings so unbelievably beautiful voice.
Yeah, unbelievable. She's so fantastic, Sarah Kate. Unfortunately, she is 22, so she won't be able to come back next year, but man, she is really cool. Like a killer player, just with her groove. I mean, who would think that the mountain dulcimer would be such a groove instrument? But she's so talented. And then her voice is just, forget about it. Like, it's so gorgeous. That hymn that they did in the concert was just tears. Trey Gurley, who is beloved in the Savannah community as a performer. He show manages that show every year. And he just cried. It's so great. I get texts from him. They're like, why do you have to have that hymn? I'm crying like a baby backstage. Love Trey.
Yeah. But I'm sure he was not the only one.
Oh, no. I mean, come on. That ridiculous. I wish I had a recording of that we could play, but I don't have the mix yet.
Today we've been talking with Jenny Woodruff, the education director of the Savannah Music Festival and a local performer. I've enjoyed so much this conversation, and we haven't even touched on whole areas that have invited her back next week. So tune in next week at the same time for the second hour with Jenny Woodruff. This has been another edition of Music Local and Sustainable, and I've been your host, Dave Lake. Save this time for another show next week.
Well, I know we ain't headed for the Hall of Fame. We're gonna give it what we got, man, that ain't no shame. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, 1, 2. Let me know if you can hear me. Check, 1, 2.